Welcome to another exciting and informative episode of Through Black Eyes Unfiltered. I'm Dr. Raymond Dunn.
And I'm Dr. Marvin Dunn.
And we are here to discuss the topic of the Israeli-Hamas war. Bruh, we're talking about serious business here. Are you ready to give us your opinions?
Well, I certainly am, Ray. You know, when the attack by Hamas took place last October, I was as horrified as the world was that this happened. Totally horrified. And I put up on my social media pages, I stand with Israel. And I put a flag, the Israeli flag, up with that statement. Mm-hmm. And I still stand with Israel. However, this is a situation in which both sides are right and both sides are wrong. One problem we need to be very clear about is that everybody who is attacking Israel for what's going on now doesn't mean that they support Hamas. Criticism of Israel, as we see and hear on these college campuses, for example, doesn't mean that those folks who are protesting what's going on that we are supporting, our country is supporting in Israel, means that these folks are for Hamas. That's just a terrible misunderstanding. Mm-hmm. But when the state of Israel was created following the Second World War, and the world had to find a place for the Jews that had been so brutally treated and massacred in Eastern Europe, the world decided through the UN that place would be what was then called Palestine. But there were people living there when the world gave Israel that land to become a state. There were people living there, Palestinians, and they got displaced and brutally treated. There's no question about that part of Israeli history. Mm-hmm. On the other hand, what was to be done with the Jews? The world did owe them a place, but it came at a great cost that the world is still paying. And I'm simply trying to make the point that we have a situation where both sides are right, both sides are wrong.
And I agree with you 100%. Both sides are right, both sides are wrong. I, too, stand with Israel. I stand with our president's support of Israel. I don't always agree with Netanyahu because he's changed his stance, but that's not important. Both sides are right, both sides are wrong.
But standing with Israel, in my view, doesn't mean necessarily standing with Netanyahu.
That's the point that I wanted to make too, because
he's a war criminal. He is as desperate to stay in office as is Trump. And of course, I support Israel's right to defend itself. But does it need to be using cluster bombs?
And do we need to be killing children and women who are civilians? Well, that's not the way to solve the problem.
Well, just speaking about our part, that we are providing weapons, including bombs that are designed to be used in a civilian population. Should we be doing that? Should we just be giving Israel unlicensed use of the weapons we give them to kill these people who are defenseless? So, and they will Israel will respond, well, Hamas is hiding in schools and hospitals. What are we supposed to do?
But then you've got the other countries of NATO observing what's happening. We're all a team here. Attack one, you attack all, right? In NATO.
That's the principle, yes.
So the President Biden, is in a bind because other countries in NATO are standing by looking, saying, well, if he stops supporting Israel by sending the weapons that they need, what would happen if we're in a conflict?
Well, yes.
Stop support. So it's really an awful position to be in.
Well, that comes with the presidency, hard decisions and difficult problems to solve. But if you get back to what Hamas is doing, hiding in hospitals, digging tunnels underneath schools and what have you, what are the Israelis to do about that? I think that there are some of the most intelligent military strategists in the world living in Israel. They can find a way to conduct urban warfare without using cluster bombs that kill women and children unnecessarily.
But I think there's another solution.
What?
All of the countries in the area are possibly in trouble because there are even threats of using the unspeakable, nuclear weapons, right? You can't control that. Once you drop one, the radiation is subject to go into place. So it's not.
Yeah, what's the point?
But my point is, why can't the other leaders in NATO, all of the leaders in NATO, get together with Netanyahu, sit around a table, and if you got the smartest minds in the world, they, the military leaders, should be able to suggest how this might be ended without the killing of women and children.
That won't work.
Why not?
You think the current leader of Israel, this warmonger,
I know who he
would
is.
sit down with a bunch of other leaders and say, okay, oh, well, you're all right, I'll just give up and go to jail once this war is over. No, you can't talk that. You can't talk this man out of this war. That's the Israelis have to decide that the price is too high for them. Israel is losing it on the world stage, where they have had the moral high ground since Israel was established. And now with this mess, this war that's going on now, the way that it's being conducted is hurting Israel, which means it's hurting us. People who go after Israel also come after us.
Okay, now let's reverse this position because it's complicated.
No doubt.
Who was wrong? Who started it? Israel just going about this business
Hamas
a couple
started
of months ago, and Hamas attacked Israel.
Absolutely.
Now, why would Hamas, a terrorist organization, attack a country?
To get just what they're getting.
They couldn't win.
Well, they don't know that. They don't know that. If the U.S. House of Representatives had held back support for this war for the U.S. to support Israel, the difference could have been very, very real.
Okay, but let's step down a couple of steps. I mean, you and I are not presidents of countries, and we don't have that kind of background, but we are educators. We're both educators, and we've served in administrative positions, the both of us, for years. So let me ask you, from your experience as a university administrator, what would you do if you were the president of Columbia and you had students on your campus refusing to leave the campus and organizing protest camps?
That's the issue of the day. We have these demonstrations going on campuses all over the country, as you know. But had I been president of Columbia when this started, with students setting up an encampment on the campus and refusing to take it down, my first concern would have been safety of the people in that university.
Exactly.
Making sure that they were protected from any physical harm. That would have been my first responsibility.
Safety of your students.
Now, unless there was some threat to human safety and life, I wouldn't have called the police. That just made it worse. Anytime you sick the police on demonstrators, it just makes it worse. I would have, had there not been any threat to human life, not people saying, I hate Jews, Hamas should win. People get a right to say that.
Exactly, especially on a college campus.
Exactly. You get a right to be stupid in America. You get a right to be wrong. So you can't say we're going to close down these student encampments because they're saying nasty things about Jews. We are Americans. We get to say nasty things about each other. They're nasty, difficult to hear, but who's to say? You cannot cross the line by doing something about it. You can threaten. That's within your right, but you cannot act.
You can't take
action. Now, when you see students on these campuses and the agitators among them who want to see violence, then you take action when you see some direct threat to human safety. Otherwise, you let people say whatever they want. This is a free country. If I could not control the situation with my campus police without calling in the police, I would close the campus. I would close the campus down and let parents, the ones who are paying the bills, get involved. Get the young ones back home and talk to them and get this university back in order.
But if you close the campus down, you got graduation coming up very soon, and you shut the campus down.
It's a ceremony, damn it.
I know that. But
get over it.
But you close the campus down because just think of the percentage of students who are protesting, who are encamped on the campus.
Maybe they'll make them stop protesting. If you don't have graduation, go get your uniforms and get ready for graduation. Otherwise, there's not going to be anything happening on this campus. Once you close the campus, once you close the campus, I think you're going to have the community support and particularly parental support for getting students back in line in terms of attending classes. But trying to let me just finish this point. Maybe I didn't make it clear enough. In America, you have a right to say hateful things. It's difficult to listen to. I mean, suppose during the civil rights movement, white people couldn't say, I hate niggers.
I hate you. Exactly.
People have a right to say hateful things. You don't have a right to act on them, to threaten, to actually do things that would cause harm to somebody. That's where you get the police involved.
But as an administrator, if you shut the campus down, one view of shutting the campus down is you can't handle it. The protesters won. They shut the damn place down.
Well, I think they would probably close the campus for a certain amount of time, but I think that's necessary. Extreme measures require extreme reactions.
We know that college campuses almost always get involved in any kind of conflict in these United States. How has that worked to the benefit of groups trying to gain their rights or trying to make progress?
Actually, the involvement of college students has been precipitous in terms of getting social action around the world, not just in our country. It has been young people in other countries. Take South Africa, for example. It was high school students who really led that protest against apartheid in South Africa. In our own country, yes, we have had a long history of student protests. Just go back as far as the Civil Rights Movement, when students, and the Vietnam War, when students took over campuses. So we've been through this. You would think, however, that by now we would realize that young people are going to be out front on key issues, key divisive issues in our time and in the future, and we need to be ready to respond to that, not with calling the police, but finding reasonable ways to engage them peaceably, to express their views, and not allow our emotions to dictate what we do, particularly as it relates to trying to limit people's free speech, especially free speech on a college campus.
I've had my experiences of dealing with that. I served as a dean of students at one of the largest colleges in the country, and I went through many of the conflicts.
What did you do?
My method, and I had students who demonstrated, believe me, and they would demonstrate in groups of hundreds. But I would always make sure that I would go and talk with them, and the key to my success with demonstrators was I was able to convince them in every instance that I had to do that to decide amongst themselves a smaller group that would represent their views and meet me at my office and we'll discuss it.
Well,
that worked for me for 20-something years. I've had students so upset about different things, about the cost of tuition, about all sorts of issues. But you can't resolve something with 300, 400, 500 students yelling at you.
Yeah, I got it. I think, as a matter of fact, some of these university presidents should take that, do that same course of action. Invite them in and talk with them and defuse the situation that way. Yeah. Good for you for that time that you served.
But that worked for me at that time. Bruh, the problem hasn't been resolved in all of these years. Jimmy Carter and everybody else gave it their best. Still, we're facing the same thing. So, question. Is a two-state solution the answer?
It's the only answer.
Why do you say that?
Because we have to provide, I say we because we're in the thick of it, we have to provide a safe, economically successful region of land where the Palestinians could live in peace and rule themselves. That does not mean that Hamas becomes the leader of the opposing side. I don't think the Palestinian people want Hamas to be their spokesperson, their leader. But yes, a two-state solution is the only solution.
What countries are supporting Hamas. Hamas is just
none, as far as I know. None, as far as I know.
Excuse me. What do you think Hamas is getting its funding from to fight?
Well, they got some of it from
They're terrorists.
some of it from Israel. We know that Netanyahu knew and was that support was being provided to Hamas, I think, through Qatar.
Mm-hmm.
And he knew about this. He knew about this before the attack on October 7th.
Well,
he knew this was coming.
Well, that I understand that is still being discussed, or has that been definitely proven that he knew?
I think it's been very well established that Israel knew that this attack was coming.
Let's come closer to home, because we usually talk about things through black eyes. Let's go back to black eyes. Give me a comparison of what's happening with this situation with the Jews and how the Jews supported or did not support the civil rights movement.
Well, I was here when the Jews marched with us in the 60s.
So was I.
I watched the arrest of rabbis in St. Augustine, the largest arrest of rabbis in American history. And those rabbis were there to support Dr. King in his work in St. Augustine. When I wrote my book on the history of blacks in Miami, the civil rights chapter, I sent to a colleague of mine, Dr. John O'Brown, who led CORE, the Congress on Racial Equality. That chapter in Miami was led by Dr. Brown. And I sent him my civil rights chapter to read before I took the book to print, to publish. And he kept it for about a week, then he called me. He said, Dr. Dunn, you can't print this chapter on civil rights the way you have it here. I said, Dr. Brown, please, you were there. What's wrong with it? He said, you didn't recognize any of the white people who helped us, any of the Jews that helped us. Had it not been for Jews in Miami, he told me, there would not have been a civil rights movement in Miami. Mm-hmm. They provided lawyers and money, although many of them did it secretly because of the threat of being known that they were doing that, but that they were there. And there are folks today born 20 years ago, 30 years ago, have no idea of how we stood together during that time. And my view is that the two groups, Jews and American blacks, have one thing in common, and that's suffering. Mm-hmm. We have that in common, and we need to reach across that line, that common line in our human experience and in our national experience to recognize that American Jews, I think right now, deserve our support and criticism when it's appropriate.
I agree.
Okay.
I, too, participated in the civil rights movement. I, too, went to jail. But let me tell you, I went to jail because I was with Florida A&M University, and we were an all-black institution, and we decided to protest during the civil rights movement. But some 300 students from white Florida State University joined us. And if you go back and do the research, I can guarantee you there were Jews amongst the white students who stood with us. Yeah. So I agree with you. We have this black-white Jewish relationship that we've counted on for support for all of these years.
And part of that also has to be political support, because African Americans and Jews tend to vote similarly. Now, we start having these divisions among us, different perceptions of what's going on. That has a political cost, too. And it's coming at a time when this country has never faced a more important election in our history. This is no time to be divided over anything. We need to come together.
Let me close with the statement that there is no correct answer for the questions that I ask you. They're only opinions. This war has been raging for the cause of the war has been raging for hundreds of years, will not be easily solved, and I appreciate your views on it. I think our audience will appreciate your views, and we invite our audience to make comments, and if appropriate, we will respond to your comments. I thank you very much, bro. As always, interesting, intellectual, exchange, and I hope that people get a different view on this Israeli-Hamas war.